solve a lot of problems, but they pop up faster than we can solve them. At least we can make a suggestion. So I wouldn't try to brag and say that we have solved a lot of problems. But just getting the attention of people to think in the right direction, I think, is a chore. And I think that's part of what we want to do today, get people thinking about something going on that they take for granted. And that has to do with, really, it's the speech police, how they take words and use them. And we first ran into this problem after 9/11, you know, terrorism. And the terrorists are coming, and they were careless in the use of it because everybody was practicing terrorism. And they're terrorists. And of course, the whole world became our target. You know, we've used it and as an excuse to go every place that we desired to go to. And even now, what have they done? They've expanded that definition because it's domestic now. You know, because they know the Constitution is supposed to protect us against foreign affairs and domestic affairs. So it's something that's very important. But I want to talk today about another word that has seemed to be carelessly used, and that's a conspiracy. You know, if you're a conspirator, you're automatically bad guy. And if it happens to be that you believe in something that a lot of people believe, and you're in disagreement with a certain group, and a certain group has control of the speech police, all of a sudden, I will get them. We'll just call down a conspiracy person, and that will, you know, discredit them, and there'll be a mixture of things to know who the speech police are and who's being charged for what crime. They don't start with the basic assumption that we have freedom of speech to express ourselves. It's certainly in the U.S. Congress. You're supposed to have it. But right now, as we speak, I think they're trying to deal with this with the Republican Party. And how are we going to deal with this young Republican woman that's speaking out, and she's not conventional. I don't know the details of all her beliefs, but she's not conventional, which sort of interests us. You know, because the convention is you just go along to get along, and you don't say boo and get on the right committee and raise your money and do all this. But evidently she has stirred up the controversy, and that has bringing Georgia. And I think if the little bit I know about her, she usually takes a position, you know, like gun rights. She believes in the Second Amendment and a few other things, and that's extremism, and that's conspiratorial, and all this. So it's been decided that the Democrats really have piled on, and that means if it's difficult defending her, then of course the Republicans have to join in too, and go after and criticize her for these beliefs. But this is a little bit complex because you can say things, you can do things in Congress, you can say things and do things. But this whole idea that there's a conspiracy, and she expressed herself in some areas that I don't even know what that conspiracy is all about, but she was expressing herself that was controversial. But I work from the assumption that everybody is a conspirator, and it all has to do what you're defending. You know, are you defending A issue, a B issue, or which side of this issue are you on? And so you know, in a way, RPI says conspirators for liberty. We get together, we're trying to gather our friends up together to get support, and of course we don't want to do it in secrecy. We want our stuff broadcast. But anyway, we conspire to promote our cause, and sometimes we run into trouble with the speech police and other things, or we run into problems on lockdowns that tends to interfere with what we want to do. But I think in many ways that everybody is a conspirator. I think what they're trying to talk about, that there is a secrecy going on that nobody knows about it, and I would agree that there's some of that. Because just think, just how the FBI, but just how the Federal Reserve is run, that's secret. I wonder if that's a conspiracy. I tend to think that it's a big one. They control everything when it comes to money, and interest rates are very, very powerful. But no, they're not considered. I don't think they're speak out, you know, and they don't like that because it's challenging the status quo. I think they dislike her. Somewhat like why they don't like Trump is he's blunt, he speaks it out, and she speaks it out, and it probably challenges them in certain ways. It's like saying, you guys aren't doing a very good job, and that's why the American people are upset. And so they go back and forth. They right now, it looks like they would like her to be quieter. But my point here that I'd like to make today is that everything that the establishment has done is a conspiracy too. And our job is to figure out, is it a good conspiracy or a bad one? And we'll go over a few of those things, whether it's economics or civil liberties or war problems. They're always conspiring, but most of the time this stuff is couched in good terms, but it's really a conspiracy that does a great deal of harm. I would say, you know, lockdown, because that's in the news. I think you could use lockdown as an example. How did that come about? Is it logical? Is it necessary? Is it medically sound? And oh, you're a conspirator person, and they dismiss you. But something like that, I think is very important because history will finally ask these questions. But right now they're in flux. Nobody knows exactly how this came about, and with all the evidence now to show that the lockdown has been very, very harmful to the economy, harmful to the health, harmful to people who are prone towards suicide. All these kind of things is very, very serious. But no, that's not what the people now talking a lot about conspiracy theories are thinking about. But I think there's the conspiracy of the people who would like to make things worse for us should be brought to light.
And you know, not to disappoint some people, but we're not here to defend Marjorie Taylor Greene at all or anything that she said. In fact, you know, I've read about what a horrible person she was, so I tried to figure out what she said that was so bad. I really couldn't find very much, but I'm sure there's plenty of objectionable things. One of the things they said is that she liked someone's social media post that was threatening violence against the local she didn't like before she ran for Congress, and that's why she was kicked out. Well, I wonder how many people like posts celebrating Senator Paul being attacked by his neighbor. That's okay. But there's a lot of interesting things happening right now, and that's why we want to bring this front and center. And as we say, it is in the news because the House Republican Conference, I believe, is meeting today to figure out what to do with this woman who's causing them all kinds of grief and causing the Democrats all kinds of glee. Because no matter how much they claim they want to get rid of Trump, the Democrats can't let go of Trump. They want him to still be front and center, so they can keep throwing rotten fruit and vegetables at him, but they pretend they want him gone. So they're meeting to discuss, and she actually, the House Minority Leader, met with her last night. Kevin McCarthy met with her last night. Apparently, some reports are, he tried to get her to apologize for all the horrible things she's done. She said no. She's a thorn in their side. I think at least 67 House Democrats have called for her to literally be expelled from Congress, which is sort of ironic because that would overturn the vote of the people. Isn't that the thing they were just complaining about what Trump was trying to do, is overturn the vote of the people in their district? What is interesting today, and certainly the Senate, now Minority Leader, used to be Majority Leader, has chimed in on it, and chimed in on the side that she's pretty bad news. This is the senior senator from Kentucky, and I'll throw out just what he said. Loony lies and conspiracy theories are cancer for the Republican Party and our country. This has nothing, and then he goes on to say some theories, which I don't know if she will or not. This has nothing to do with the challenges facing American families. And this is a funny part, Dr. Paul. Or the robust debates on substance that can straighten our party. And I went, what robust debates is he talking about there?
Oh, those were the ones that I used to lead there. They always wanted me in there because I would contribute something.
Robust debate.
No, the door got closed before I got there when they had a real debate.
Yeah.
But, you know, there was the biggest conspiracy theory that came to an end, or at least, yes, I would say it's come to an end, which is very, very important because I was on both sides of this, and this has to do with the assassination of President Kennedy.
Yeah.
Because I was in the Air Force then, I was a military officer in Texas at the time, and it was high on the agenda, and I thought people that were saying the same things I did. Well, I guess that's it. Who are we to know? And I imagine 80% of people, my guess would be, that supported that thesis. But as the time went on and more people talked about this, the conspiracy people, these bad conspiracy people, the ones who seek out the truth, they dug into this. There's been books after books read on this, and it sort of is fascinating me to look into it. So I certainly came to the conclusion that it wasn't Oswald. Oswald probably didn't even have bullets in his gun. You know, when you really look at this. So, but that was the conspiracy, and if you didn't believe in, you were un-American. But now it's totally shifted, and that's why the conspiracies are very common. There are two sides to the argument. You should be more objective to it. You should look at the people who are stating a strong position, whether they have any action. You know, are they getting any benefits from it? So you might look and say, well, you know, this whole thing about lockdown doesn't make any sense. But does anybody benefit from this? Maybe so. And that should come out, and it should be at least studied. And eventually there will be more truth about it. But right now, I think it's very much in flux. I think there's a transition going on. I think there's less blind acceptance of believing everything that Dr. Fauci says is the gospel, and that we have to do it, because we report so often where he's been on two sides of one, you know, two positions on one issue. So this to me is the important thing to realize, that you know, conspiracy theories is just a word to use to demagogue and destroy people and not have to think about it. And that if you're talking about you know, the danger of language, what about the danger of policy, which is to me, that's conspiracy. You know, if you look at it, there's so much goes on. I mean, the whole way they legislate is a conspiracy, because it's not really done out now. Oh, yeah, we have committee hearings. Yeah, we do. And then we have joint committee hearings. We go to the Rules Committee, and then we have joint conferences, and the bills are this big, and they bring them to the floor a week before Christmas, and people vote for it, and nobody reads it. It's going on at this very moment. You know, the bills are so big, and you say, well, is that a conspiracy? Oh no, it's just tough. You know, we have a problem getting all our work down with the virus that's eating us up. They never ask the question, has that been overdone? Is there an exaggeration that's unnecessary? Is some of this stuff not even worthwhile, and is it not productive at all, and not done under the rules of the Constitution?
You mentioned, I think, the key two words: who benefits? Who benefits from different conspiracy theories? Now, maybe this Congress member's theories are bad and wrong, but what about the other theories, the other conspiracy theories that have been successful in Congress? What about the conspiracy theory that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction? Everyone seemed to believe that was a good one. Well, who benefited? Well, a lot of the military contractors benefited. What about the conspiracy theory currently running, which is that Iran is just days or hours or seconds away from a bomb? That's a conspiracy theory, and that's certainly fine in Washington. Or what about the conspiracy theory that on January 6th, Donald Trump led an insurrection to overthrow the government of the United States? That's a pretty heavy-duty conspiracy theory. And in fact, Congress is so deeply embroiled in that conspiracy theory that regardless of the senator's claims about robust debate, they're actually taking time away from robust debate to impeach a person who doesn't even hold office. You talk about a big conspiracy theory there.
Well, you have to believe it, because I was going to say there were a lot of guns there, but the guns weren't on. They weren't there with Trump. Trump wasn't in the building at all, and of course they had to stretch it a little bit. But that's a different thing. But your point is well taken, that people see this, and it is a theory, you know, that there's a coup going on, a coup without guns. That's a pretty neat trick, you know. It's an ideological thing. So this is something that I think going to be around for a while, and be a real challenge to it. But I think this is all what history is all about, and all about politics. And I'm sure it's been with us for, you know, since our country started. At the very beginning, there would be people, you know, conspiring. You know, at the local level, there are laws against city councilmen, you know, getting together and talking over city business, but it wasn't announced. It's not an official meeting. They can get into serious trouble with just getting together and talking about it. And I guess they think they're conspiring, which makes good sense. If they are really doing business on the QT, that would be something. But they are careful about that. But to call everything a conspiracy and that we have to punish people, so it'll be interesting to see what happens, because she's already been punished to a large degree, you know, because she's been pointed out because she says bad things, supposedly. So, but that to me is sometimes just distraction, and the big conspiracies, the things that people were ridiculed for, and the things that government does, which kills people. And if it's conspiring to give us free medical care, well, what if it ends up inspiring suicide, you know, giving them bad medicines or whatever? What if the lies told that get people ginned up for, I gotta send my kid off to war if he dies, as he's dying for his country? How about the 60,000 people that died over the lie of Gulf of Tonkin?
Yeah.
That issue really stuck with me, because, you know, that was when I was drafted. I didn't get sent to Vietnam, but I did physicals on a lot of people that did go and didn't come back. It turned out that it was a lie, and the members of Congress, you know, went along with it at the beginning. There should have been more people challenging this. Maybe they were the conspiracy people. Maybe they should at least be listened to. But don't call them conspirators. Tell them they're people who want a full discussion.
Yeah.
And just because you want a discussion and you disagree with the status quo, you shouldn't be given a bad name that you're a terrorist or a conspirator. Just go and look for the facts, and just think of the tragedy of how many wars. I don't know if there were very many more. You know, there's a common saying about World War II that FDR maneuvered us into war, and there's pretty good evidence to show that that was a benefit, supposedly a benefit for us for strategic reasons. But to even suggest it, even today, probably is not a very good thing to say. You can't say that you can get punished for that too.
Yeah, you can. And talking about a robust debate, which the Senate Minority Leader assured us that Congress is involved in, there are no robust debates. You remember the hearings in the committees where they would have 5 witnesses who all thought we needed to go to war, and that was a robust debate. But there is a robust debate going on within the Republican Party, and it's interesting to watch, because we did talk about Green, but there's also another congresswoman who's in the hot seat, and that is Liz Cheney. And I think that's sort of, and people have said this, but sort of the two of them are being dealt with today by the House Republican Committee. They're sort of the two different faces of the party in a way. It couldn't be more different, and I'm sure they don't care much for each other. But really, the Beltway Republicans are losing their grip on the Republican Party, and to try to regain that grip, they're desperate to return to the past. And Liz Cheney sort of represents the past. She represents the Republican Party of Dick Cheney, her father, and they're desperate to go back to this. In fact, McConnell said something. She's under fire because she voted for impeachment. I think she's ran afoul of people like Senator Paul and others for her embracing of war and a warlike foreign policy. And the majority, I think, in the House Republican caucus would like to see her out of her leadership position, number 3 in leadership. So I think there's a real battle going on for the future of the Republican Party, and we're seeing the old guard slipping and losing its grip. I don't know that Green is the future, but certainly the Republican Party of Trump and Trumpism is not going away quietly.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's just that the way they get their real debate isn't quite like we would like to see it. We'd like to see a real philosophic debate, and that doesn't happen. But you know, we talked a bit about intervention overseas and going to war without declarations, and if he so this automatic acceptance of interventionism, prelude to socialism, economic policy, which has been around now for a long, long time. Not true socialism. It's a thing of I think it's corporatism. It's a combination of big corporations and government, and it produces what we have now because they're fortified by another thing that if you say too much about your conspiracy, and I've already mentioned the Federal Reserve, and if you challenge that, then that's a bad name because Democrats and Republicans really agree on it. The only thing they argue is who gets to write the checks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing they argue about. They spent $6 trillion last year already. They haven't even spent the money. Now they're arguing over 1.9 trillion or 1.5 trillion or $3 trillion. But it's all this whole idea. I think that's a conspiratorial notion that printing money is really beneficial for the people. You say, well, just think how many people got bailed out in this past year. True, but the hole is much deeper. The deficit hole, the debt hole, the intervention, the basic unemployment source, getting worse. At the same time, we've had this additional intervention with the lockdown, and we have a big mess. But if you say it's what if you were overly blunt? I would never do that. It's all the government's fault. Then you overstepped your bounds. You can't say that because it isn't all the government's fault. Because I see it's all ideological. And it's the people who either teach this in the schools and the congressmen don't know anything better, and it's the people who vote, they go along with this, so it's what the people think and endorse and believe that this helps. So ideology is very, very important, but if it's superficial and it has to do with the name calling and say one is a conspirator and one is a terrorist if they do something wrong, that is not going to solve it. I think that, unfortunately, and it's not going to happen soon, but it's starting to happen. More people. I read something the other day about how much they had heard about Austrian economics and all, and it was like they were going back 20 or 30 years. They never had heard of that. But now, there's several of us who've been talking about it, and Mises Institute, and there's quite a few others, and that's where it's loosely called conspiratorial because there's a goal, and we get together and talk about it. But it's the goal of promoting sound economic policy, sound civil libertarian policy, and a sound foreign policy that would be much more conducive for peace and prosperity.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I'll disclose. Speaking of conspiracies, we didn't talk about COVID today for a change. But if you look at the charts, if you look at what's happening, it's really collapsing. The virus is collapsing, as a lot of people suspected, because it's more like a seasonal flu. There has been no flu this year, so it does make you wonder if people with those PCR tests turned up to 40-some, if they actually had not just had the flu. But it is collapsing. As it collapses, the people that have held this country in their grips are not lessening their grips. They're not opening. They're not letting people have their freedom back. And that's a real issue. That's also something that we've warned about. So the question is, what next? You're going to try to tell us 12 masks, 13 masks, whatever. But the virus is doing what viruses do, which is suppressing society, and it's ending. So the question is, are we going to let them continue the abuse, or are we going to peacefully stand up and reassert ourselves, reassert our interests, our civil liberties, and let's hope that we can be able to set apart Dr. Paul.
Very good. I misinformation that goes out and not looking to themselves. That would be my suggestion. If you think that conspiratorial activity, when people act and do dumb things, look to oneself and think, am I a part of that? And from what we're trying to make a point on, you are part of it. We're all part of it in this country, because that's the way the country is run by people getting together and thinking and teaching that we should look to this to change it, and that is maybe this automatic thing that says, oh yeah, I think she's a conspirator and she's no good, she's loony, we got to get rid of her. I think that people ought to calm down and say, hey, look to yourself. Look to them. All the policies of the government that have been going on for 100 years, whether it's in education or medicine or whatever, and economic